So who's on the show tonight?
Finally, the show I've been waiting to do. I've got a guy, you don't even know this guy, okay? He's probably the least recognized figure we've had, but he's an actor. Eric Wheeler is his name. Eric the actor, I call him. And I've been wanting to talk to him he's a fascinating guy. Just saw a play that he was in last year. And so, as soon as we found out we were having a show, I said, I got to get that guy. And finally today, he's here.
Well, he acted his way right into the studio. He's already
Already?
here. Yes. And you got the beautiful purple shirt on. So let's go.
I missed my call. Come
Let's
on.
go.
All right, come down the hall with me and I'll show you where we're going.
All right.
This is the Stone Studios down here. I'm going to talk to Eric Wheeler, actor, bon vivant, star of stage and screen, mostly stage anyway. Hey, Eric, what's up, man?
Coming to you live from the Stone Studios, it's The Phantoms Talk Show, filmed in front of a live studio audience of one.
Admired you as been Mr. Basketball.
Yes, we'll talk about that, Jerry.
And certainly I have no gender reveal. I've been more or less a man, as far as I know.
More or less,
for a
I
long
think, is the
time,
key.
yeah.
What exactly are you the GOAT of? Is it prep reporting? Is it high schools? Is it college? What are you? You're definitely the GOAT. But what of?
Well, what's too far for mom to drive? And I want to get outside because I had one of those who goes, I think Fullerton's far enough away that mom can't come on a Thursday.
Bar, restaurant, whatever it may be, something to find.
I
a way
like
to
how
make
you go
money.
lessons or working at a bar.
It's,
That's
it's one or
basically
the other.
yeah.
It's one or the other.
They're
either
like,
way.
really didn't pay much attention to me, so I thought, well, maybe I can make Tom laugh, and maybe I'll get on the country show.
This week's guest is actor Eric Wheeler. And now, the guy you've all been waiting for. It's The Phantom.
Hello, welcome to the Phantom Talk Show. I'm Phantom, and my guest this week, maybe not as recognizable as some of my other guests that I've had, although for a small group of people out there, they're probably going, hey, that's my mailman. But no, he's a retired mailman now, right, Eric? He's actually a star of stage and screen, mostly stage. And the last time I saw you on stage was last year when you were the headliner for A Christmas Carol. You were the Scrooge guy, that Scrooge guy for Sacramento
I
Theater
was the
Company.
Scrooge guy.
Eric Wheeler, I call you NorCal actor. Eric Wheeler is my guest. Eric,
I'll take that.
Thanks for coming by, man.
It's my pleasure, Mark. My pleasure.
You can call me Phantom since it's the Phantom Talk Show,
Okay.
but that's okay.
It's because I've known you for
Yes, we'll get into
a
that.
long time,
but the
so.
first thing I'd say, when I first started thinking of the idea for this show, or thinking I wanted to do this show, I told Stones, I said, look, I want to get this guy, Eric, he's an actor, I want to get him on the show. And Stone said, why? And I thought
That's the
that was
first thing I said.
I thought it was cruel until I talked to you about it. And I asked you, I said, Eric, you come on the show? And you said, why? So why the disrespect?
Oh no!
What's the disrespect here? Why the lack of confidence in yourself? I mean, like I say, I kind of joked about it, but you're an actor. You've been acting for 30 or 40 years now,
At least,
in Northern California and elsewhere. So I totally wanted to get you on the show and talk to you about your career and stuff. And the first thing I think that people, when they meet somebody who says he's an actor, it's like if you meet somebody in radio and you say, well, what station you're on, and I tell them, and they say, well, I don't listen to that. So that's what you get in radio. In acting, I'm sure it's like, what have I seen you in?
Yeah.
So I went IMDbing, and I said, as you'll find out, Eric, I do a little research, and the key is little research. Okay. So I want to ask you about a couple, if I can.
Sure.
If you know about Principal Miller in Mama Boy,
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that epic with a big star in the cast?
Gary Busey had a pretty large cameo in that movie, and Stephen Tobolowsky, who you might not recognize the name, but if you saw him, you definitely recognize the face.
Guy, yeah.
Most notable, I think, for most people, from the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. He played Ned Ryerson.
Well, that's
that
huge.
Right?
Yeah, Ned Ryerson. So what year was Mama Boy, and what was Principal Miller? What did he have to do with it?
Okay, so Mama Boy was a feature film that was produced locally, but it was a great experience, and the filmmakers went all out. It was as if you were in L.A. on a Hollywood set. I mean,
but it was a local set,
all done locally, all local actors, with the exception of the aforementioned Busey and Tobolowsky. And just a great experience. Like I said, full-on trailers and makeup and wardrobe, and it was so professional, so professional. I played Principal Miller, who is the principal of a high school that the film takes place in. It's basically about a star baseball player on the high school baseball team who gets pregnant. So it's basically a male getting pregnant kind of.
Oh, of course.
comedy.
Yes, because that's what you want to, you're in there. That's where
exactly.
Principal. Now, where did Principal Miller come in? And more importantly, how did you get to be Principal Miller?
I was asked to audition. Principal Miller is, like I said, the principal of the high school. He's a tough cookie, but funny. He's a funny character. And he suspects that something's going on with the lead character who's pregnant, but can't quite put his finger on it. It's just like I said, you're introduced to other characters along the way, and Gary Busey plays the new coach of the baseball team. Stephen Tobolowsky plays the reverend father of the female lead.
Did you have any scenes with those two?
No, I did not. Oh no, I take that back. That's a lie. I did have. In fact, I introduced Gary Busey's character in the film.
There you go.
There's a big high school assembly. Principal Miller comes out and he's explaining to the school and the faculty and the students who the new coach is, and so give a big warm welcome.
Nice scene. That's kind of nice.
Gary Busey, yeah. And so he comes out and we shake hands and he sits down next to me. Anyways, he's a really nice guy. He's a tall dude. Gary Busey is a big guy.
Yeah.
And a quirky. He's as quirky as you would expect him
He's
to
a
be.
quirky guy. So you do that, and then this is the one. This really caught my eye because, again, it has local connections. But Notorious Nick, just from a couple years ago, when you were a physician in that one. So you got a lot of range. I mean, you could do principals, you could do physicians, but it got a couple of Marcus Allen and Gary Gelfand were in it, and it's about an MMA fighter, right?
Yep.
So it sounds pretty cool, really. And I think I remember when it came out, I didn't realize you were in it.
Most people don't.
So,
My wife didn't realize I was in it after watching it.
And she's very attentive, and she loves your career. She's a big supporter.
It was a very short part, very small role. A few lines here and there. Basically, it's based on a true story about I can't remember the character's real last name, but in the film, he has a deformity of one of his arms. He's basically a one-armed
MMA guy, right?
MMA guy.
Yeah.
And it's a great underdog, Rocky type story. And I play the ring physician who's called in the middle of the final climactic fight
Good
to
spot.
come in and examine the lead actor and make sure he's okay to continue to fight. And I'm not sure he is, but the coach is looking at me. Can I send him in? Yeah, send him in. Go ahead. Good luck. And I leave, and that's my whole scene.
That's too good, but you get to introduce Gary Busey in one, and you get to determine whether Notorious Nick gets to be notorious. So not bad. Okay, so that's just two examples.
It was all due to me.
And like I say, I went on the IMDb. There's a lot of stuff there. Fantastic.
A lot of small independent films.
And a lot of small stuff. So what's your origin story? I mean, you talk about a guy is a baseball player, for example, and they're a good ball player in Little League, and they're a kid, and they love it, and they keep going. So for you, was there an acting bug that hit you early, or how did you come around to it?
Yeah, no, I don't even know if it was an acting bug per se. It's just something I had always been doing since before I even have memory of it.
Wow.
I was that kid in first grade, maybe 6, 7 years old, who would spend his recesses going out and gathering with 3 or 4 of his best friends, and okay, what nursery rhyme are we going to act out today?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so I would just
you're
corral.
Jack and
I just corral all the kids, and we'd rush something together really fast. And I'd go into the classroom when we were called back in and say, "Hey, Mrs. Johnson, can I show you what we just learned to do out in the recess?"
You don't usually bring stuff in from recess and do it in class.
Absolutely, you're right.
So what was it, even at that age? What was it that really just drew you to? I mean, was it creating? Was it being a center of attention? What kind of stuff? What was it?
Yeah, we're getting into some real self-analysis here.
Well,
now,
on the Phantoms Talk Show, we go from up here to way down there.
Down
we'll go
deep.
down there later. Don't
gonna
worry about
end
it.
up sobbing at the end of this. I know.
Yes.
No. I don't know. It was mostly just pretend. I've just always been someone who loved to pretend, to be somewhere else, to be something else. All my playtime was based. I was never really into sports. I didn't play a lot in school at all. For me, it was always about, all right, what game do you guys want to play? Let's pretend that I'm this and you're that and you're that and you're that, and let's go and do it. And then that soon as I got into a grade where they had a program, an actual drama program, I was like, well, yeah, well, this is perfect. This is what I've been doing.
I'm surprised they just
you know.
didn't shovel you right in
They
it right away.
practically
First
did.
day, yeah.
No, they practically did. And then every opportunity I had in school to do theater, I did. And then by the time I was a senior in high school, I started doing college productions. And then by the time I graduated, I was doing professional productions. So it's just something I've just always done. I don't know anything else.
So when you started off, was it I want to be the star? Did it matter to you what part you were? I mean, if you just want to get a taste of it, I'm just wondering if you were like, okay, we're going to do Shakespeare. I'm Hamlet, or I'm Macbeth. I'm the guy, or did you? Oh no, sometimes I'm the other guy.
Just mostly whatever I could get.
Yeah.
I mean, oddly enough, the first actual roles I ever played were lead roles. But I'm talking about 4th, 5th grade.
Right.
I was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. I was Tom Sawyer in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, whatever. And that wasn't anything I necessarily pursued. It was like, hey, we're doing a show. These are the roles. Read a script and audition. And I was just lucky enough to be cast in things. I had already by that time had no stage fright. Could be in front of public.
You've been doing it literally since you were 4 or 5 years old. So yeah.
So yeah, it was just, and I never had made a decision to be a lead or a musical comedy guy or a musical theater or anything like that. It was just, what is the show the school is doing? I'll go for the lead. Why not?
Yeah.
And then it just built from there on out every year for the rest of my life.
You were an actor. So if there's something
just
to act
always
in,
an
I'm going to
actor.
go act
I
in
was
it. Right.
Always an actor.
Well,
yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, we've known each other for a long time because our wives worked together many, many, many years ago. And I think the first play I ever saw you in was at Fair Oaks Park outside in an amphitheater, and it must have been like 35 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago.
86, I think.
I don't
87.
remember paying attention to it because I think I got dragged there, and I didn't. He's an actor. Oh crap! Who cares? But really,
like most husbands. Yeah.
no. But I think this is true. I mean, I know that for a time. I mean, you liked the fact that I was on the Rise Guys, and you were a Rise Guys fan, and I liked the fact that you were an actor. I just didn't go to much your acting. I thought it was great. So, do you remember what that play would have been back at Fair Oaks?
Absolutely.
It seemed like it. I don't know if it was Shakespeare. It seemed kind of fancy.
It was like that.
It was a Shakespeare-like.
It was Shakespeare-like. It was called The Scams of Scapan. It was actually a satirical remake of Scapan, which is a French play by Moliere. So that's where you sort of get that old
this, and that's
period
scary.
piece. And
Yeah.
it's a funny show. And we played up the comedy, physical comedy mostly, as much as we could. And it was a lot of fun. It did real well with audiences. And a little bit of ad-lib and improvisation was allowed to take place in the course of that show.
Oh, that's got to be fun, though. Yeah, that's got to be fun. And then the next time was many years later, and all I remember is that we were in a bar across the street. And I think, is it a law that has to be a bar across the street from every theater? Because the last one I went and saw you with last year, there was a bar across the street there, too. But there's a bar across the street, then we went across the street and went downstairs, and there was like 25 seats or something.
Yeah, 50
and you were
seats.
playing something like a lumberjack, or you were a little bit dim or something. I mean, this was a while ago.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. That was another great comedy.
That was a very funny play.
Called The Foreigner, and that was produced at a theater company called The Show Below, which was just a phenomenal theater company for its time. It hasn't existed for a while there, but for its time, it was probably the top community theater in Sacramento, and some of the best actors in Sacramento to this day came through that theater company.
Right. Yeah, that was a very enjoyable play.
Yeah,
as I recall.
Very great. It was in the basement of a Victorian home.
Yes, in the basement,
and had 49 seats, and they did some just great work. So yeah, The Foreigner was the name of the show, and that's if anybody gets a chance to see The Foreigner somewhere, check it out. It's hilarious.
You were excellent. What was your character? Do you remember your character?
Ellard.
Ellard, because you weren't. Yeah, that sounds exactly like your character.
Yeah.
Ellard's a perfect name for that character. He was not a bright man.
No, the greatest thing about that character was, so it's in a real short, succinct way, if I can. It's about an Englishman who, I forget why, finds himself in rural Georgia staying at an inn, and he has to pretend that he doesn't speak English. I don't remember exactly if it's because he's on the lam or whatever, but He gets taken in by this whole cast of characters who are at the inn, and my character is somewhat of a dim-witted but lovable guy
Very lovable.
who decides he's going to take it upon himself to teach this character English. And so there's a great scene where they're sitting across from the table, and he's pointing things out like, this is a faux work. 2 parts, faux work.
Okay, so great job. Good work.
And he just goes down through the list of this is a lamp. Layump. 2 syllables. Layump. And the guy just repeats layump. And it's just hilarious. It's
Fantastic.
great. Very endearing and very funny.
Well, the last one I saw you in was last year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to ask you, so all this time, all these years, how many plays? I mean, generally. Just
theater. Less than 100, more than 65. So
Yeah.
I haven't really counted.
Okay.
I have a list somewhere, but yeah, it's a lot.
odd question. I don't want to offend you. You're my guest. The 3 times I've seen you, you were fantastic. Have you ever felt like you were bad? Did you ever do performances and go, God, I just did a terrible job?
To this day, a few of them haunt me. I'll tell you real quick. I enjoy doing Shakespeare, so when I get the chance, I like to do it. And there's a role in Shakespeare's Hamlet that I'd always wanted to play once I started getting in my later years.
Right.
And that's the role of Claudius. Claudius is the evil king who murders Hamlet's father to get the throne. Always wanted to play the role. Hamlet isn't done very often around town. And a theater company was announced they were going to do it. I lobbied hard to get the role, and I got the role.
Yes.
I've never been so joyful in my life to get that role. Got to play it. And I think, for the most part, I did really well at it. But there was one monologue that Claudius has, just him alone on stage. And I worked so hard on that monologue. I mean, I had the lines, I had the words. That wasn't the problem. It's mostly about intention and pace. And is he getting across to the audience what his objective is in the monologue? And for some reason, it was just a very difficult, ephemeral, ethereal thing to hold on to. And even though I think, for the most part, the audience might not have seen anything wrong with it, and
But
totally
you
bought into it,
you felt it.
I could
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
Every night I'd walk off stage and go, "Damn it, I didn't get it. Not that one. Let me try something else tomorrow night."
Yeah.
And every night I worked at it, and it just, I never felt like I hit it.
And that's something. Excuse me. Is that something like lay people? We watch an actor, watch you up there, and go, and I wonder how he remembers all that and all that, and that's what we get consumed with. But for you, obviously, that is a muscle that you exercised a long time ago, I would imagine, and that is something that you just get that. That's something you just do, and you're worried about how you do it, not what it is. And that, I mean, I watch, Shakespeare, and it's, I know it's very rhythmic and everything, but there's long stuff, and the language is what the language is. But that's something that I would think you guys, once you already know how to get the word, you already know the words, so that's not the problem for you guys. It's more of putting the meaning or whatever it is that you want to put out there.
It's the biggest problem. The biggest goal is to get across to an audience what the storyteller is trying to say in a way that they are also very connected to and affected by.
Right.
You're not just saying the lines and hoping the audience understands them. You really are hoping for a connection that the audience receives and goes, wow, I maybe don't understand everything he's saying, but I sure feel it. So yeah, the lines, it's usually the first question an actor is asked.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you memorize all those lines?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we work hard at it. We study and we work and we get it. And then once that's done, the real work of acting comes in. Yeah.
I met Stephanie Gillard. Does that?
Oh yeah.
She's an actress, a director, whatever. I met her a long time, like 10 years ago.
I know Stephanie very well.
I was doing I just got let go, and I was doing some online radio show or something. I don't know where it was. It was off someplace in Watt Avenue. Anyway, this guy that ran a bunch of different stations out of it, and he did public service announcements and interviews and stuff. And she was in there with, I think, a director or something, because she had a play coming out. And I just knew who it was because I'd seen her in a Sunday feature in the newspaper or something, so I knew who it was. And I guess she knew who I was. And I was talking to her, and I asked her something about learning the lines of Shakespeare, something just like what you just said. And she's like, and I'll never forget it. You talk about the Claudius thing. I'll never forget. She goes, "I'm a little disappointed in you." Because I think maybe she expected more from me or something. Because you know what I mean. And I've never forgotten that. You know, it's like it just kind of stopped. You say,
Definitely,
I had one
great.
chance to impress somebody, or just like be on the same level in my own mind. I blew it, man.
She was the artistic director
was great.
and co-founder of a great theater company that still is in town doing amazing work called Capital Stage Company. And I worked with her for 10, 11 years at that company. So she's someone who really knows theater, really understands the craft, and is just a phenomenal person, as well as are everybody who's connected with that company.
You think she'll give me another chance then if I made her again? Probably no. I probably blew it.
She lives in Florida. She moved to Florida to run a big
Great.
theater company in St.
Fantastic.
Petersburg, and so that's where she is now.
Well, the reason I ask you about Have You Ever Been Bad is because we were watching this show called The Morning Show that's on Apple with Jennifer Aniston and all these other people. And it's not, to my mind, a very well-acted show. But my wife, Jennifer, we were watching it, and she's sitting there. We watch it every week, and she goes, "You know something? I don't know if Jennifer Aniston is a good actress anymore because of her performance in there." And and the reason I come into that is because for some point when you're an actor, I always thought like, okay, you're an actor, you're really good as an actor, so you'll be good in everything you try. But it doesn't really work that way, does it? And also, it depends on obviously what the written word is.
Yeah, and I think most actors, and I can't speak for all actors, obviously, but actors want to act, and they want to try everything. And if an opportunity is given them to try something that maybe is a little out of their norm, they want to try it. And some succeed and some don't. You know, I can never fault an actor or actress for trying something that you wouldn't think that they would do.
Trying to break the mold a little bit.
I get that. But I'm sure I've had roles that I thought I want to try, I want to do.
Yeah.
I know I can do this, and then found it was a little out of my reach.
Yeah,
you know.
You see people do that all the time on the level of a Jennifer Aniston or somebody. Just something they like. Chris Rock was in a Fargo a couple years ago, and it just didn't seem to quite fit him. But Chris Rock is great, so it just struck me that she would ask. I'm wondering if she's even a good actress anymore. I'm gonna say, and then I saw Horrible Bosses, and she's great in that.
You can't judge by a particular performance or production. I think.
Speaking of performance, I talked about it last year at the Sacramento Theater Company. You were the main man. You were the Scrooge man.
I was the Scrooge guy. That's what it says in the script.
Which was
the Scrooge guy.
The Scrooge guy. It was a fantastic performance, and we had a great time going to see it. A couple of things I want to ask you before I ask you about the show is, in sports, a lot of times you get a key guy. The main guy on the team, or like in a TV show like on The Office, Steve Carell's like the number one guy on the call sheet. So he kind of sets the tone. Is it the same way for you guys when you're doing a production? I know not everybody is like a professional actor and stuff. When you're the guy who's basically the star of the production, do you kind of set a tone for everybody else? Do you feel that, or is that overblown a little bit?
Well, to make sure I understand the question correctly, yes. If you're a professional, you want to set the tone.
Right.
You want to be professional. You want to encourage those around you, particularly the younger actors who maybe have less experience and look up to you just because you are the lead or you are the professional.
Right.
It's very important that you behave professionally and be a role model for these other younger actors. And particularly with A Christmas Carol, because it is a large casted show with a lot of young people involved. So for me personally, I took that very seriously, that if I'm going to be professional, even if I'm just standing backstage waiting to go on and I'm surrounded by young actors, I want them to see what a professional acts like.
Absolutely,
offstage.
yeah.
So in that respect, yes. But just because I was the lead role doesn't mean I am treated any differently or get any other, benefits. It's an ensemble cast. You're one of the actors. There are many professionals in that cast playing different roles. So this particular production was a little different in that respect, in that I was originally the director of the show. And then I wasn't planning on being in the show at all. I'd been asked to direct the show.
Now, is that something you've done before, direct?
Not very often,
Okay.
no. But the executive producer of the company knew that I had a great fondness for that particular show. A Christmas Carol at Sacramento Theater Company was commissioned by that company for themselves. So in other words, that particular version of A Christmas Carol it belonged to the Sacramento Theater Company.
Okay. I didn't even know it was a musical when I showed up, by the way, just to show you how great it was.
Many different productions and versions of it. But yes, this one had music.
Yes.
And it had been produced by that company for over 35 years. I mean, it's been around for a long, long time. And I've been in that show for years and years and years. I've played almost every male character in that show, with the exception of Ebenezer Scrooge. And so last year, I was asked to direct it. We ran into some issues with casting, and I was asked to step into the role of Ebenezer Scrooge at the last minute. I had maybe about 2 weeks before we started rehearsal to accept that role. And so I gave up the directorship. The executive producer of the show agreed to direct it himself. He'd done it before. And the day, maybe 2 days before rehearsal started, he called me up and says, "I have COVID. You need to direct as well."
Oh, yeah, sure.
At least
I've got 2 days,
At least until he came back.
Yeah.
So for that particular production, I had the great benefit and enjoyment of both directing the cast and then also directing myself in a way, until he came back and then did the rest fantastically. And so it was a great experience. Just to sort of get back to, if you're the lead of a show,
right.
are you top of the call sheet, so to speak. For that production, it was a little different because I had the benefit of also being the director of the show.
And it was
for a little while.
a strange reaction too, because I remember after watching the play, I was trying to communicate this to people, and maybe you'll understand what I'm trying to say. Everybody's saying, "Well, Eric was great," and I'm like, "Eric was great, obviously," but I think he was greater because everybody around him was so good, and that's the kind of thing that I would think that you want to have, obviously. But it just really struck me that everybody was at such a high quality. Everybody was lifting everybody else up, and I really felt that from that show.
Well, that's what I mean by it's really an ensemble piece with a lot of professionals in it, and all the professionals, no matter how big or small the role is, they're doing their job to the best of their talent and ability. And you're right, it makes the show as a whole better. So yeah, absolutely.
It really felt like everybody was happy to be in that show. So is there going to be more directing from you then? Is that something you're looking to do as we move on in the career of a actor of more than 50 but less than 100 plays? Because you talked to me a little bit and said, "Well, we got to get this interview in because I'm going into rehearsals again." So tell me about your new show.
Well, so back to the Sacramento Theater Company, which is actually the oldest theater company in
Tremendous
Sacramento.
place.
Great place. They are not bringing back A Christmas Carol this year. But they are putting together a sort of holiday review. So it'll be a nice sort of review of holiday music and songs. It'll, again, have a bunch of professionals in it. It's more of a cabaret type production. A lot of great singers, little bit of acting, little bit of dialogue to thread some of these songs together. Some of your favorite music from Elf or The Grinch or Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, all of which have been turned into musicals, which a lot of people don't realize. There is a musical version of It's a Wonderful Life. There's a stage musical version of Elf. There's a stage musical version of The Grinch, Who Stole Christmas. So we're picking music and songs from each of those. As well as some great standards like White Christmas and a few others, and stringing them all together for an evening of holiday entertainment.
That sounds like...
So that's what I go into rehearsals pretty soon for.
Well, let's turn the clock back another 12 months because I wasn't going to bring this up. You have to help me with this story. I imagine over the course of your career, which now spans 5 decades, you've gotten all kinds of different reactions from crowds and from fans and people in the audience. But I think last year, if I may speak so boldly, you received a reaction unlike any that you've ever received when we came and saw your play. And my brother-in-law, Daniel, who had never been to a play before, he
a great guy.
found that he enjoyed the atmosphere. But so we're sitting there, and the theater sits how many people?
Almost 300, I think.
300,
about
and
300.
it was packed, obviously, and everybody's having and every seat was great. You saw everything from every seat, and he was sitting there, and like I say, he'd never been to a play before, and then. So it gets over, first of all, he doesn't understand the intermission thing, but, the bar was open, so that was fine. And so we get done with the play, and you're coming out to take your bows and everything. And I don't know what possessed him. He was just possessed by the moment, I guess. And he jumped up and he yelled, "Scrooge is my boy!" And everybody heard him. And then he just kept saying it. And I found it to be a little annoying at first. And then I kind of got into it because I joined in. And so have you ever had anybody yell, "Scrooge is my boy" from the audience? And how did you explain that backstage to people who are going, "Who was that maniac out there yelling at you?"
I just...
It was first of all, you got to be a little. It's weird, but that's a great reaction from a guy who's never been to a play to have that reaction.
That's really the amazing thing about it, and what makes it so special is most people who go see a play have seen a play. You know, most people understand, protocol or how to behave or what to expect.
Except for Daniel.
But when you come across someone, and we got to speak with each other, Daniel and I, after the show, obviously, because he was just he was so effusive and so kind and so taken by the production, which is all an actor could ever want.
That's fantastic.
It's so satisfying to come across someone who is seeing live theater for the first time and is so taken by it and so affected by it that they can't help themselves but stand up and shout something like he did, like
Scrooge is my boy.
Scrooge is my boy. And he was
he was adamant that you were his boy. Yes,
it was, and he said it for a long time.
Yes,
after
he's
that.
still
And
saying it. We almost had the
saying it.
T-shirts made. We're getting the T-shirts
it's
for this Christmas.
It's heartwarming. It's thrilling. I love that.
It was great.
An actor rarely, I think, gets to experience what a newcomer to theater is experiencing.
Right.
And so I treasure that moment. It's very rare. And God bless him. God bless anybody who sees theater for the first time. If you haven't seen a play, go see a play.
Yeah. Well,
transform.
We'll put out the info about yours before we leave. But I want to thank you for sitting down with me, and I want to bring us to the point of the whole conversation. There used to be a tradition about 25 years ago or so that radio people would be in plays, mostly at the B Street Theater, I think, like guys from KFBK, and I know Paul Robbins and those guys would go and they would appear in plays, and they were really good and everything. It was fine. So I think it's time to bring that tradition back, and I wrote it down right here. You and me, The Odd Couple. What do you think?
I think that's an odd couple.
A revival of The Odd Couple, Neil Simon. I mean, we could work on the dialogue and probably improv whenever we wanted to if we wanted to improve it. But I just think you and I would be what a draw, huh? A real actor and a guy you 10 years ago had a job. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. How many friends do you have?
I don't. Well, you're looking at him. He's right over there behind the glass.
So
That's
the draw is a little.
Well, I mean, you would be the draw. I mean, you're a real actor and everything, And
hey, you know what?
I thought you'd jump at the idea, really, myself.
I believe anyone can act.
That's great, because that's what Justin used to say. Justin used to say, "Hey, it's the easiest job in the world. They tell you what to say and they tell you where to stand." And I just never really wanted to debunk that, because I always loved that philosophy.
Well,
but I knew you would love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
not?
do it.
Why not?
All right. So producers, give us a call. Odd Couple Revival.
Odd Couple
I know
Revival.
you're a little busy right now.
Which character would you play?
That's the thing.
See?
Every night we switch.
We switch.
Yeah, because I won't learn the lines anyway.
Okay.
Okay. No. Okay, if it make a difference,
I'll learn all your lines.
You learn the lines and tell me. You go line. That's
right.
all. It'll just be you saying line.
Right.
I think it's a great idea.
Let's do it.
All right.
Why not?
All
There's
right.
a bar across the street, I'm sure.
What are the dates for your upcoming show? Do you not know? Because if you don't know,
I
it makes me look like a bad guy.
I kind of have to work backwards because we haven't started rehearsals here. I just got the calendar a couple of days ago. Christmas Eve is our last performance, so that weekend.
Okay.
The Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the prior weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So whatever those dates are,
okay, then
on
you
the
can
calendar,
figure out the dates.
It's the 2 weekends before Christmas.
Check the box office and get ticket information.
Christmas.
Eric Wheeler, thanks so much, man. This was a blast.
My pleasure.
You're the man.
It was
You're
a
an
lot of
actor.
fun.
That's why I had him on Stones, because he knows what he's doing. Thanks to Stones McCoy behind the glass. Thanks to Eric Wheeler, my guest, and thanks to all of you for watching. We'll talk to you next time on the Phantom Talk Show.